Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I welcome you all to today's webinar where we will discuss about how you can achieve significant cost from just-in-time cloud utilization with Covert DevOps. On the housekeeping part, I would like to inform you that today's event is being recorded and the link of the recording will be shared with all the attendees. In case you miss any part, you can go through the recording later. In case if you have any questions regarding today's webinar, please post them in the question box. At the end, we will have a Q&A session where your questions will be answered. All right, let's go ahead and kickstart with today's webinar on pay-as-you-go cloud utilization of DevOps resources. Our three speakers today are Pavel Maschik, MD of London-based Medius Technologies. Pavel is an accomplished enterprise architect with over 20 years of experience in application development and architecture with detailed focus on integration. He has overseen a number of integration bus, SOA, microservices, and APIs architecture implementations and migrations. Next, we have Amit Dasgupta, Director of Solutions and Major Accounts of Covert. Amit holds a PMP certification from PMI Institute and is also a certified Scrum Master and brings over 20 years of expertise in different areas like DevOps, cloud computing, big data, ALM, PPM, agile implementation using Scrum and Lean. Next, we have Sirsha Mukherjee, who is a software engineer from Covert. Sirsha specializes in implementing DevOps pipelines for customers. She has expertise on agile methodologies, cloud technology, and CI/CD platforms. With this introduction, I'll hand over the session to Pavel and would like him to share his thoughts on how organizations can save some cost by utilizing the pay-per-use model of cloud. Over to you, Pavel.
Thank you, Srisha. That's great. And hello, everybody. So one of the great promises of cloud when people moved to it was the very quick provisioning. That was the first thing that everybody notices. No more waiting, no more lead time. We're waiting for servers in the data centers. You literally click the button and the server spins up for you and you can use it several minutes later. That was great and fantastic. However, it does not really provide great savings if you keep on running your cloud infrastructure all the time, just like you do in a data center. Obviously, you do it for your live systems, but what about all your development, test, and any other non-production environments? So here, in order to achieve a good savings, you really need to concentrate on running that infrastructure on an on-demand mode. You only have the environment running when it's needed, and when it's not needed, you spin it off and you basically pay nothing. Remember that Amazon charges you per minute of usage, so every minute you have it switched off, you're saving money. And one of the things that we notice is that people generally avoid doing it. And it happens because it's considered to be either too difficult or too complicated, too error prone. And rather than being able to spin this infrastructure on demand, people keep it running all the time. In our experience on the projects that we've been on, we can achieve great savings if we have the environment running only when it's needed. Now, one of the things that we notice is that when people try to do it, they will see that they spend a lot of time troubleshooting the problems with the infrastructure. And here is a number of savings that you can do. Now, the way we calculated those and how we can increase productivity by 20% is that on average, when you have a sprint team or 6 engineers, that over the projects that we tracked, you can actually notice that around 30 hours of their time is spent chasing issues. And either the data is incorrect or the servers are not running or something is not correct, especially in the test teams. So having it all automated and working first time all the time would be a great benefit if you could achieve this. And you can achieve this with automation rather than manual processes. And can I have the next slide, please? So you need to go back to the one with 70% increase. Oh yeah. So yes, that's I was talking about having the infrastructure working only when you need it. Now is uh, that is about the saving that we can get, and on environments running only all the time. Now, what you see in front of you is the fact that we can achieve the savings if we run the servers, a small environment with maybe 5, 6 different Amazon servers that runs only 10 hours a day and never at the weekend. That's the savings we can see. And then if we move forward, then I mentioned the savings that quickly mount up if our engineers can concentrate on developing code, on testing the code, and on basically making sure that they deliver the project that they're supposed to deliver rather than troubleshooting issues. Then we can achieve great savings on the project. We don't have people chasing around. We know that if everything is scripted and everything is stand up on time, every time correct, then our teams are free to progress free. So thanks a lot.
Okay, so thanks, Pavel, for the good insight that how using the benefits, I mean, how using the pay-per-use model of cloud, somebody can increase or save 70% of the running cost and 20% increase on the productivity of the developers. Now, from here, I would like to tell that, okay, Cohere DevOps, how Cohere DevOps facilitate this through its CI/CD pipeline. But before going there, I would first like to share some of the major value propositions of Cohere DevOps. To start with, that the Cohere DevOps platform, it completely provides a low code or no code drag and drop configurable task based CI/CD pipeline. That means you don't need to code, you just drag and drop the task, do it in sequence or do it in parallel, define the details, and the pipeline starts getting executed. Next is that the platform supports combination of both manual and automated activities in a pipeline wherever necessary for process adherence. So what is meant by that is that sometimes it happens that for process adherence, we may have to go through some manual approvals at certain stages. So that can be easily achieved by intercepting the pipeline and injecting certain manual activities or some manual approval process in between. Moving next, you can monitor your and manage your pipelines across multiple projects with complete visibility to the value stream. So what happens that whether you have defined multiple pipelines across multiple projects or within a project across multiple releases, all gets visible from a single UI standpoint and gives you a complete visibility. And also with integration with the other phases of the life cycle, you can have a complete visibility to the value stream and get an idea that what is getting delivered, how much value is getting delivered, what is the frequency of delivery, or in what pace we are delivering the values to the customers and all those things. Next is this platform obviously supports edge computing because we support deployments over public, private, or hybrid cloud, or even Kubernetes clusters, or on-premise, and eventually on any VM environment also. So using the same platform, you can deploy your code at any environment of your choice. And finally, along with Cohere DevOps, we have a proprietary SOA architected ESB, which is Cohere Omnibus. You can actually connect to 110 plus development tools or business applications beyond the boundary of CI/CD. So with this major value propositions, let me go ahead and talk briefly about the Cohere DevOps platform overall. So as you can see in the slide that all the different phases starting from operations and passing through plan, code, build, artifactory, test, security, deploy, run, as well as at the final stage that after deployment, the application performance monitoring, everything has been covered. And the list of plugins that you see, these are all just sample plugins which we have placed in under each of this section, which is supported by Cohere. But the list is even more, but here due to space, we have just consolidated some of them. So some points to highlight, like with security tools, plugins like Veracode, HCL AppScan, and others, you can easily achieve a DevSecOps type of thing. Right. On the similar front, let's say when you It's not only about automation from code check-in to deployment, but if you want to hook up with other phases or the planning phase or the ops phase and things like that, that is also a possibility. And with all these things coupled together, the four major pillars that you can achieve through covert DevOps are release orchestration, continuous testing, deployment automation, and intelligent reporting. So you can, on the release orchestration part, you can build, manage, and monitor release pipelines for better control and transparency. On the continuous testing part, you can perform continuous testing with different test automation tools. And as I was mentioning, that at any point in time for any approval, you can go over a manual approval process. And also you can standardize and automate your deployment across multiple environments, and that too of your choice. And then obviously when these things are happening in background from management standpoint or from a project manager standpoint or from any stakeholder standpoint, you get a complete visibility and transparency of the releases with intelligent real-time reports and dashboards. And very proudly I would like to also mention over here that recently we have been included in the Gartner's report, which is the market guide for DevOps value stream management platforms. Moving next, some key features of our Covert DevOps platform. To start with the platform itself. So first of all, it's a very lightweight platform which can be deployed on any Windows or Linux machine, and also it supports multiple databases, whether it's an open source database like MariaDB or MySQL. On the other side, some RDBMS like SQL Server or Oracle. So anything of your choice. Again, everything that I talked about, this low code or no code type of configuration and all those things, so everything is available over a intuitive and very simple UI with minimum clicks, reducing the time for adoption. It is easily adaptable. Then we also follow a process of agent based execution, which actually enhance the scalability. It's not that you need to have all the plugins or the things in one single machine where the DevOps platform is installed. Rather, you can have your agents distributed across several environments and then get the DevOps work and make it more scalable. Right. Also, there is a single interface where all the manual tasks gets loaded. So everything is access based. When somebody logs in, and if they have the responsibility of approving certain tasks, or if there is any other manual task that needs to be performed, then those becomes visible in one single interface. Moving next, to talk about something about the pipeline, the CI/CD pipeline that this platform brings in as a built-in feature. First of all, to mention that we provide a task-based pipeline, and the benefit is that you can configure sequential as well as parallel tasks. And as I was mentioning earlier, that you can also configure manual and automation activities. Now, something very interesting, that is you can configure certain pre or post condition at individual task under the in individual task level at under the pipeline. So what happens that, let's say, after the previous task is complete, based on certain condition, you want to take it to a different path. So that type of situation can be supported. Or let's say, based you want to impose certain post conditions after certain activities complete, maybe sending some notification to somebody, or maybe in involving the Slack channel, or anything that you may want. Another very unique value proposition, that, or the unique capability rather, I would say, that this Covert DevOps pipeline brings in, is managing and executing the pipeline through email. And especially these days, during these pandemic days when people are working from home, so you don't need to go and manually go to the application and start the server and all those things, or start the pipeline because of connectivity issues or anything. So from the mobile itself, so from your mail itself, you can view the status of the pipeline, you can pause a pipeline, you can stop a pipeline, you can even start a pipeline, right? Then when I talk about this pipeline, this CI/CD pipeline, when you think of that, okay, let's say I'm having multiple releases, and it may happen that, okay, for a particular type of release, the pipeline will remain same. So for that type of thing, we allow this cloning of pipelines, as well as you can archive pipelines. Then another thing is that when we have this CI/CD pipeline, let's say you are having a planning tool which is not Covert, but you are using some other planning tools or something from where you want to invoke this pipeline. So that is absolutely possible. So what we have is, we have all the REST APIs exposed for this, and you can easily invoke those pipelines from any other application of your choice. And also we maintain the change history of this pipeline. So whatever changes gets done in the pipeline, or number of times it is getting executed, it records all those histories and give you a complete picture that how the pipeline has got matured over a period of time, and how it has been executed multiple times, and what was the result. Then another very interesting thing is this triggering of pipeline from another pipeline. So we often talk about these dependent releases. There on obviously it may happen that based on certain minor releases, it will be depend. I mean, a major release is dependent on some minor releases. So those type of dependent pipelines you can configure in Covare, and also you can invoke those dependent pipelines. And what will happen is that until and unless your dependent pipelines are executed successfully, the main pipeline will not start getting executed. So those type of flexibilities are there. Moving next, releases. So one thing that we do is from an architecture standpoint, that we know that in general, the best practice is that every project may have multiple releases, and each of these release can have its own pipeline. So that's why we say that we provide a release-based pipeline management. So whenever you are planning a release, you can tag up CI/CD pipeline with that release, and then you can track those release pipelines or the progress of those releases over a release calendar. We also have capabilities like release overtime indicator, where what happens that if for any reason, if the release is not going on time, or if it is getting delayed or whatever it is, you get a indicator, on screen indicator, so that you absolutely come to know that what is going wrong or where things are going wrong. Right. Moving next, the next item to talk about is easy installation. So Docker enabled, then downloadable installer support, and also we have support for cloud-based installation. So we are coming up with a DevOps on cloud type of thing where people can start the trial on cloud. Moving next, access control. So though we are talking about CI/CD pipeline, we are talking about these releases and projects. It's not that everybody gets access to everything, because that will definitely be chaotic and will create a lot of problems. So what we do is we have a login based access to the platform. So first of all, in order to get inside the platform, you need to have a valid login by which you can get into the platform. And then once you log in, every user will belong to certain groups under a project, and based on the access of those groups, it will be determined that what type of actions they can perform. Maybe somebody may be restricted from defining a pipeline or modifying a pipeline. They may have the access right to just execute the pipeline. So any such accesses where you want to restrict the users from doing everything, those type of support, access based support, is there in the platform. And last but not the least is the analytics. So in area of DevOps, one thing that is very common is DORA reports. So absolutely, we have support for the DORA reports. We also have several other reports related to release, build, and deployment. And not only that, as I was mentioning earlier, that this platform, which also connected close very tightly with one of our other product, which is Covare ALM, where you can create additional configurable reports to satisfy your value streams, or to get a complete insight into your value stream. And there also, all the reports or dashboards that you are creating or the platform is providing, it's not that everything is accessible to everybody. What happens is that they are also based on the groups to which you belong. You can actually determine that who views what. So that's the basic feature map of Covare DevOps platform. Now moving next, we also have a very extensive support through our Kubernetes plugin. So what happens that these days we know that Kubernetes has gained a lot of popularity, and most of the deployments or most of the organizations are using the benefits of Kubernetes. So from a Covare DevOps platform point of view, obviously we support the four major aspects of Kubernetes. One is that you can execute generic commands. So you can execute any Kubernetes command through generic command execution facility of Covare DevOps. And after this presentation, we have a short demonstration lined up where we'll show that what is meant by this generic command or command execution, how you can define those. And then you can manage the files at Kubernetes cluster. So whenever it is required to deploy or delete any file in Kubernetes cluster, you can create a corresponding task within the platform or within the pipeline, and then accordingly you can use that. The creation of namespace. So another important aspect of Kubernetes, right? So you can create the namespace from the pipeline itself by executing the commands in the Kubernetes master. And then and the final thing is that you can create and manage the different jobs at Kubernetes cluster, meaning you can create, delete, and track the jobs that are defined in Kubernetes cluster. And when I say that you can do these things in Kubernetes cluster, so what happens is that when you define that particular task in the pipeline, then using those commands, those commands gets executed in the Kubernetes master, which results in deploying or doing the activity in the individual Kubernetes cluster. So with all these features and functionalities about Covert DevOps platform, the next or the final slide before we go to the short demo of Covert DevOps is how this platform helps to leverage the pay-per-use pricing model of cloud, which Pavel was mentioning. So to start with, first of all, it facilitates on-demand provisioning of cloud infrastructure over public, private, or hybrid clouds. So whatever cloud infrastructure you are using, whether it's AWS, whether it's Azure, whether it's Google Cloud, or any your own cloud environment, right? Like the private cloud environment, whatever it is, you can through different commands or custom commands, you can invoke those on demand. So let's say, like in today's example only, we will see that once the code is checked in automatically, uh, once the code is checked in automatically, and this pipeline gets triggered, it will automatically provision an instance in AWS and will do the build over there. So we'll show you that how based on demand you can provision an instance, do the build, and terminate the instance. Second is the leverage the benefit of pay for actual use with the ability to orchestrate cloud usage. So as I was mentioning, that in your entire process from code check-in to deployment, wherever you think that okay, this activity needs to be performed on cloud, you don't need to keep the cloud instance up and running always. As Pavel was mentioning, that you can definitely reduce your running cost by just turning them on whenever required and then turning them off whenever your job is done. Moving next, termination of cloud instances as soon as the operations are complete. So the point that I was mentioning, that it will be just like the clockwork, that as soon as the operation gets completed, automatically you can trigger the termination of that particular instance. And seamless operation across on-premise and cloud infrastructure. So what happens over here is that some of the tools may be on premise, may be installed on your premise. Let's say the build tool or the deployment routine, or let's say after the build is done, maybe your build routine is there in cloud, but you want to deploy it in your own infrastructure. Your staging environment is in your own infrastructure, or your dev environment is in your own, test environment is in your own infrastructure. So a combination of cloud and on premise, right? So that you can have a seamless collaboration between this on-premise and cloud infrastructure using this Covert DevOps platform. So with this, what I will do is I will pass the control to Shisha, who will actually take you through the product demo. It will be a short product demo. So let me make her the presenter. Yeah. So Shisha, you can start from here and show a short demo of Covert DevOps.
Thank you, Amit. So now I'll take you through a short demonstration to show how using Covert DevOps, organizations can leverage the benefit of pay-per-use model of cloud and do some cost savings. So for today's demo, we are considering a scenario where after the developers check in their code in the SCM tool like GitHub, an EC2 instance of AWS will be turned on. Once turned on, a build will be performed and the build files will be moved to a AWS S3 bucket. Once moved, the EC2 instance will be destroyed. This way, organizations will not need the EC2 instance to run constantly. Instead, they can turn it on or off as and when required. With this, let me take you to the Covert DevOps platform. So Covert DevOps is offered on a browser-based interface where a user lands into the pipeline list page after login. As you can see over here, Covert DevOps enables organizations to configure the pipeline in a low-code or no-code manner using simple mouse clicks. Before going into how CI/CD pipeline can be configured in Covert DevOps, let me show you the execution of an existing pipeline showcasing the scenario I mentioned few minutes back. Let me now get into this cloud provisioning pipeline for this. One point worth mentioning here is that Covert DevOps provides a task-based pipeline. So let us wait for a while to get the pipeline loaded. As I have described the flow earlier, the first task will check out the code from GitHub, and then we will provision an EC2 instance using Terraform for the build. And once the build is done using Maven, the build files will be moved to a S3 bucket and the EC2 instance will be destroyed after. After this, the build files will be deployed in a staging server through some custom commands on which test automation scripts written in Selenium will be executed. And if the testing is successful, then the application files will be deployed in a production instance, which in our case is a Kubernetes cluster. And once production deployment is successful, other stakeholders will be notified through a Slack feedback channel. Let me now go ahead and execute the pipeline. So once the pipeline starts executing, we can view the progress of the execution from the pipeline console window. So let me go to this pipeline console window. You can see that currently it is in the planning phase. 18% is the progress. It has went to the applying phase. So while this is getting executed, let me take you to the AWS console. Okay, so as you can see, currently we don't have any instance. So let me just refresh this. As you can see, an EC2 instance is getting displayed slowly. So if you scroll to the right, since it is an applying phase, so it is showing like this. So if I scroll to the right from the launch time field, you can very well understand that this instance got created just now. So let's once again move back to the pipeline and see what is the status. Okay, so applying has been done. So if I refresh this once again, you will see that from pending state, it's definitely in running state. And if I refresh it once again, you will see slowly this instance will get shut down, and then after it will automatically get terminated. So let's go to the pipeline back again. And once the instance is being terminated, I'll once again go to the S3 bucket where I'll show you that the build files have moved to my S3 storage. So let's wait for the destruction task to get completed. Okay, so destruction has already been done. Let me once again pause this at this junction and take you back to the AWS console. Okay, let me take you to the S3 storage bucket. Okay, so this is the particular bucket that I have prepared cover build, and inside this my war file will reside. Yeah, you can see that the war file got transferred over here before the destruction of my EC2 instance. So this is all about the AWS console. Now let me once again go back to my pipeline and resume the execution. Okay, let's start the execution again. And let me take you to the console. So as you can see, slowly the tasks are getting executed. So this is how Kuvare DevOps helps organization to leverage the benefit of pay-per-use model of cloud and save some cost with respect to their cloud implementation. Now this pipeline has successfully executed. Let me now quickly take you to what are the different types of tasks that can be created to define a CI/CD pipeline in Kuvare DevOps. So let me edit a particular task and explain you the different types of tasks that can be created over here. As you can see on the left hand panel, we have different categories of tasks. So we have SCM build, and under this, each of these categories support different types of plugin over here. So right now we are in utility, and we have chosen the Terraform plugin to spin up the EC2 instance in this case. And this Terraform plugin has several operations over here. Each of these details you can find on the right side. The hints will be provided, and based on the operation that you select, the input parameters will obviously vary. So as you can see, for the init, you need to provide the Terraform directory path and certain other optional fields over here. Similarly, we need to select certain output parameters, and as Amit was mentioning in the presentation, you can obviously provide certain pre as well as post conditions against each of the tasks. Last is the execution host. So this execution host is nothing but the particular server or the laptop where you want this particular task to get executed. And next is proceed if failed. So as this name suggests, if you click on this checkbox, that even if this task fails, it will proceed to the next task. So this is all about the utility. I would like to show you some other utility options. So we have a custom command plugin over here, and custom command supports a wide range of operations. So you can see you can execute any PowerShell scripts, you can execute CMD commands, SQL commands, shell commands, and so on. So say if you don't want to use any particular tool in your organization, and you can achieve the functionality using custom commands, so all microservices, that is very well achievable using this. Next is the manual. So not only automated task, but you can also create a manual task. Say you want a manual approval to be done before deployment in the Kubernetes cluster. So that can be very well configured from this particular manual task. Apart from this, we also support different parallel tasks. As you can see over here, we also have the concept of dependent pipeline. We follow a release, project, and pipeline hierarchy in this DevOps platform. So these are few of the functionalities that we wanted to demonstrate for today's demo. And with this, I come to the end of my part. Next, we can open up for the session of question answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Shisha. So let me check any questions. Just a second. In the question panel. Okay, there is a question. I'm just trying to expand my question window. Okay, now I have it. So the first question is that can this platform connect to tools in hybrid model? Example, one tool in cloud and another in on-premise. Yes, absolutely. So this tool is actually capable of connecting tools across any boundaries, whether it is in your private cloud, public cloud, or on-premise. So the answer is yes, and we do have plugins, and as I mentioned that it provides a seamless collaboration between the cloud and on-premise environment. So the next question is that can this host any and can this provision any environment over any cloud vendor? Yes, it can do the provisioning for, like in the demo today we showed the provisioning against AWS, but you can do the provisioning on Azure, or we can have it on any private cloud that you may be using, or your own environment that you may use. Okay, the next question is that sorry for that. So the next question is that is there any limitation in the number of parallel tasks that you may have after a task? So the answer is no. So like in this particular pipeline, we have used two parallel tasks. As you can see that for Terraform, we have a task in number 3 as well as 3.1. But in general, if you want to have multiple parallel tasks, you can obviously have that. We don't have any such restriction. And then from based on the output of these parallel activities, you can actually put certain conditions and take it through different paths. So next question is that okay, so what happens if we have a pipeline and that will only get executed when the child pipeline gets executed successfully? Yes, that is also a possibility. So what happens over here is that when you are configuring this pipeline, or when you are configuring this particular task of any pipeline, then you can define the task as invoking the other pipeline, and that way you can have a complete view that complete dependency that, okay, based on the child pipelines, only when the successfully gets executed, did you execute the parent pipeline. So the next question is that do these platform provide any dashboards and reports? Yes, definitely. So rather than answering it theoretically, what I would do is I would request Shisha to show some of the reports and dashboards which are provided out of this platform. So Shisha, can you show those, please?
So yeah, here we have some pre-configured reports in this dashboard. We do have more wide range of reports over here, and you can create your own reports, and you can obviously include them in dashboard. So if I take you to the report section, yeah.
you can explain some of the dashboards over here. So overall pipeline summary, overall run summary, and if you can scroll down slowly, you can show the other reports also.
Yeah, this is the overall pipeline summary. As you can see, we have different colored indicators, and it is showing percentage wise how many of the pipeline has failed, how many of them has passed, how many are in queue, and how many is in running state, how many have stopped. So all these colored indicators in here indicate that what is the count or the percentage of each pipeline. Next, here we have the overall run summary. This is also kind of similar. It will show you how many of the pipelines, how many of the pipeline run, the number of times we have executed a pipeline, how many of them has failed, and how many of them has passed. Next is the overall execution duration summary. So here we have the run duration against this. So these are the different pipelines, and it is showing you the run duration. Next, we have the completed release count. So this is again showing how many of the releases has completed out of the total release. So these are some of the reports that we have included in our dashboard, and you can also create a new dashboard over from here, and you can select project wise dashboard, you can select the release, and you can filter out the reports. Next, if I take you to the reports section, you can see that we have ample of other reports that are in this platform, and you can very well include them in your new dashboard. So you can see we have this different reports over here: top 10 longest release, release completion, longest pipeline. If I go to the next page, you can see that these are the other reports that are there in the platform.
Okay, thanks, Shisha. So there is another question that, okay, you mentioned during the presentation that you can have a release and then you can monitor those release over panels and all those things. So so Shisha, again, I would suggest that we're going to demonstrate quickly that how we can manage the releases and how you can monitor, we can monitor them through release calendar and the overtime indicator and those things.
Yeah, under this administrator, we have this release projects and groups, plugins, everything. So let me take you to the releases. This is from where you can create your release. Okay, so this is the release list page, and you can create a new release from here. So let me show you. You need to provide a release name, which is the mandatory. You can provide an optional description. You need to associate the release with a particular project. So the list of projects will populate over here. You need to provide a planned start date and the planned end date. And as soon as you start this release, the actual start date, and when you end this release, the actual end date will be automatically populated by the system. So this is all about the release. Now let me explain you a bit about all this. So this will show you, this colored indicator will show you whether that no pipeline is linked to this release. And if you directly want to create and link a pipeline to this particular release, you can very well do it from this UI also. Next is the, beside the planned start date and the planned end date, we have another colored indicator, which is the release overtime indicator. So if you click on this, it will show you that how many days this release is running behind schedule, whether it is on time. So you can very well track from here, and you can even start a release from this UI also. Next is, it is showing the project, and similarly, so you can also have different actions. You can edit a release, you can delete, clone, or archive a release. So this is about the release. In a similar fashion, you can also create projects.
Okay, so why don't you show that how these projects and releases are interlinked?
Okay, so while I was defining the release, I have already shown you that you need to select the project against which you want to link this release. And next, I'll come show you over here how easily you can create the project. So you can see over here, we have some projects, and while you get this platform, you will have this default project with you. So you can create new projects right by clicking on this new project. So if you click on this new project, you can provide the new project name and the description. Next, we have certain creation date, modification date, and next, this is the release count. So this is clearly showing you this project has how many releases associated with it. So you can see here it has one active release and no archive release, but where you can see this project has 8 active releases and one of the releases have been archived. So this is about the release count, and you can also assign this project to particular groups, and you can set the access. As you can see, all these projects are assigned to all the 4 groups. We have this admin group, read only, execute, and full access. So this is a brief idea about what is release and how to manage release and project in this platform.
Okay, thanks, Shisha. So next question is that you talked about manual tasks. So how can somebody who has received a task can view those tasks in the platform? So I think it's from the My Task tab. So Shisha, can you show them that how somebody can view the task that has been assigned?
Okay, so this is the admin user. I don't think so any task is there for the admin user. And if any task is assigned to the user, so there are 2 ways of viewing that task. Either if you check that send email notification checkbox, so automatically a mail will be shown to that particular mail ID, and you will get detailed notification about what is the task that has been generated. You can reply to this mail and you can complete that task. And next is to the particular user against whom you have assigned that task. You can go to that, you can log in with that user's credential, and if you go to this My Task page, you can very well see that the task that is there in your plate. So this admin user doesn't have any task as of now. This list is empty. So let me try to log in with another user and show you. Let me see whether I have any pending task or not. Just give me a minute. Okay, so Amit, as of now, I don't have any task in my plate to
Okay,
show
no
you that.
problem. No problem. So yeah, I mean, at least you explained that how to see the task in the platform itself. So let me see if any other question is there. Uh, okay, so one question came in that you talked about accesses. So how to define accesses in the platform or how to give access to different users. So Shisha, again, I would request you to uh, give a short demo of that how you can give accesses under the administrative section.
Yeah, under the administrative section, we have different users, groups. So if I go to this groups, so you can see we have 4 defined groups. One is the read-only access, which have the execution access and which has the full access, and topmost is the admin access. So you can assign users to all of these groups and you can accordingly set the access to your project.
Okay. So I think we are almost done with the questions. So there is a last question that if I have multiple pipelines, how can I see that which pipeline has been executed, how many times, and all those things. So Shisha, in the pipeline list, can you just quickly show that how users can view that how many times the pipeline has been executed and the history and all those things? And why don't you cover a little bit that how users can very easily create or clone a pipeline?
Okay. So this is the pipeline list page, and it is showing you what is the status, when it has been last executed, which project it has been assigned to. If you expand this, if I expand this, you can see very well the how many times this pipeline has been executed, what is the status of each run. And here beside you can also see a small report showing you the entire status. And we also
Shisha, the
have this
screen, just a second, Shisha, I think we have a lag. So the screen just came up. When you expanded, the screen just came up. So can you just explain it once more?
Okay. So if while I was expanding this, you can see if I expand this, we have this all the runs generated and how many times we have executed this pipeline, what is the status of each of this pipeline, and we have this run summary, a small report which will show you the status of the percentage of execution, how many of them has failed, passed, or stopped. So I think Amit, this answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing, this run name, I think it is clickable, right? So if you click on that, what information does it shows? The first
Yeah,
column
yeah.
of the screen.
Let me show. So it will take me to the pipeline.
Okay. Okay, so I think that was all the questions that we had for today. So thank you everybody for joining the webinar. It was really nice and a lot of interactions. So we liked it. And definitely, as mentioned earlier, that the recording of this webinar will be available and it will be emailed also. So thank you everybody for joining. Thanks, Pavel. Thanks, Shisha.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.